Stoicism has the power to profoundly change the way we live and approach our lives. The Stoics were the first theorists of human emotions, teaching us how to develop emotional intelligence and build our inner strength, increasing our capacity to face life's challenges with clarity and wisdom. Their words have withstood the test of time, and today we will share 12 lessons inspired by the works of history's most prominent philosophers: Epictetus, Seneca, and Marcus Aurelius. Their timeless lessons can illuminate the path to a more meaningful and fulfilling life. But before we start, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any knowledge, as it could change your life. Part 1. Epictetus. Epictetus was a man born as a slave who died as one of the most influential teachers of his time. But he never considered himself a master. He was a philosopher, a Stoic philosopher, someone in pursuit of a very specific kind of knowledge, practical knowledge that, when applied, helps us confront and overcome life's inevitable difficulties. Through a combination of his own life experiences and the wisdom of his great mentor, a Stoic philosopher named Musonius Rufus, Epictetus acquired the kind of knowledge for which people traveled hundreds of miles just for the opportunity to hear him, even if only for an hour or two. Parents sent their children to listen to him, from the poorest to the richest and most powerful, and even the Emperor Hadrian competed for the chance to sit at Epictetus's feet. Fortunately, there was a young man who regularly listened to Epictetus and decided to write down everything he had to say. Surprisingly, these notes have survived to this day and have been passed down to some of the greatest figures in history over the past thousands of years. Even the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius wrote in his journal thanking the man who lent him a copy of Epictetus. It is known that Theodore Roosevelt, one of the notable American presidents, carried a copy of Epictetus during his expedition into the River of Doubt, which was incredibly dangerous. Admiral James Stockdale carried Epictetus while leading fighter squadrons in combat in Vietnam and relied on Epictetus's teachings when he had to survive as a prisoner of war for 7 years. The list is endless, and after watching this video you will understand why you will add your name to the list of your mentors, because Epictetus truly was one of the wisest and most inspiring people to ever exist in human history. First Stoic lesson: dichotomy of control. Divide and distinguish things into two categories: the external things I cannot control and the choices I make regarding what I can control. Where then should one seek good and evil? In oneself, in one's choices. This single skill, Epictetus said, will change your life. The art of differentiating between what depends on us and what does not. For example, a flight is delayed due to weather. No matter how much you shout at an airline attendant and get upset, the storm will not go away because of it. No desire will make you taller or shorter or born in another country. No matter how hard you try, there are people who simply will not like you. Furthermore, the time we spend struggling against these permanent realities is time we do not dedicate to things we can change. As Epictetus said, the only thing we can control is the decisions we make, and the same goes for you. Focus on clearly identifying which parts of your day are under your control and which are not. You will not only be happier, but also have a clear advantage over people who do not realize they are wasting time on battles they cannot win. Second, Stoic lesson: you decide how to react. Epictetus said, "It is not events that disturb people, but their judgments about those events." Albert Ellis, one of the most influential figures in modern psychology, said this guided him in developing cognitive behavioral therapy. Epictetus said, "This is the most important power we have. Something happens, but it is us who decide if it is unjust, bad, or a failure. Someone says something, but it is us who decide if it is offensive, arrogant, or rude. If someone can provoke you," Epictetus said, "realize that your mind is conspiring with the provocation. Events are objective. The opinion that they are offensive is just that, your opinion, and you always have the power to change it. Third Stoic lesson: remain humble. Get rid of pride or vanity, Epictetus said. It is impossible to learn what one thinks they already know. Epictetus always kept his eyes and ears open, actively seeking opportunities to learn from everyone and everything. This is the attitude we should carry with us every day, whether we are the best at what we do or just starting. Every person we meet, every situation we find ourselves in, every book we read or movie we watch is an opportunity to learn, to improve, to take a step forward on the path of progress. This was one of Epictetus's favorite questions. Have you made progress? Above all, we answer this question by focusing on what we do not know, not what we do. Fourth Stoic lesson: use difficulties as opportunities. True character reveals itself in difficult moments, said Epictetus. Therefore, when problems arise, think of yourself as a fighter paired with a tough opponent. For what purpose? To become the best version of yourself. We can think of difficulties in many ways, as failure, injustice, or the end of the line. Clearly, this was not destined, we say. They don't want us to succeed. What's the point of trying? Or we can choose to train ourselves to see it in a better light, as an opportunity to learn about resilience, patience, and strength, as a chance to demonstrate our worth, or as resistance that strengthens our muscles. Epictetus preferred this last option and became, in his time and in ours, the ultimate symbol of the human capacity to overcome bleak circumstances. He said it wasn't about accepting difficulties or resigning oneself to them, but about accepting to work with them, deciding to make the most of them, seeing difficulties as an opportunity, not as an obstacle. And so, we can turn everything that happens to us into fuel. We can become better and stronger with everything that happens to us. You will truly understand this, said Epictetus, when you realize that it is useless to break what is breakable. Lose a thing, let's say, your cup if you want. But to feel the desire to break, let's say, your cup, it is you who suffers. You should not be expecting the puzzle of your life to be completed in one day. You should be happy to be working on it and staying ahead, eager to find a piece that you can fit. As Epictetus said, you are a slave, then escape from slavery. A slave to wealth, then renounce it. Slave to a desire, then do not let it dominate you. You are a free man, and no one can harm you. No one can prevent you from doing the right things. Therefore, in summary, Epictetus believed that the power of choice was the supreme power of man, and that by distinguishing between what is within our control and what is not, we can achieve peace of mind and wisdom. He also emphasized the importance of not being controlled by our judgments about events, but rather keeping an open mind and learning from all experiences. Furthermore, he encouraged seeing difficulties as opportunities for growth and overcoming, rather than insurmountable obstacles. Remember that Epictetus's Stoicism is a philosophy that focuses on self-discipline, self-control, and the pursuit of wisdom. His ideas continue to be sources of inspiration for many people seeking a more meaningful and balanced life. Part 2. Seneca. Would you really know what philosophy offers to humanity? Seneca once said that philosophy offers guidance, born at the beginning of the first millennium in a time of paranoia, violence, and political turmoil. Seneca needed guidance, just like you. He read extensively and eventually discovered a philosophical school known as Stoicism, founded in Greece centuries earlier. In the works of the Stoics, Seneca found what he was looking for: guidance on how to live a good life. He soon began writing letters and essays to family, friends, and promising young individuals, sharing the wisdom that had changed his life. Fifth Stoic lesson: stay in reality. Seneca used to say, Nothing will ever please me, however excellent or beneficial, if I must keep its knowledge to myself. Nothing good is pleasant to possess without friends to share it. There are many more things that can frighten us than can crush us. We suffer more in imagination than in reality. Seneca's life was filled with suffering. He was born with a chronic lung disease and lived during the reigns of the first 5 emperors, each increasingly disturbed and violent, compared to their predecessors. He was exiled and lost everything twice. Despite all this suffering, his advice was that the only thing that should concern us is what truly concerns us. He emphasized that we spend so much time imagining and worrying about the future that we torment ourselves more than what actually troubles us. Seneca stressed that pain and suffering are inevitable, but what we should avoid are the ghostly forebodings of what may or may not happen. Instead of suffering through imagination, we should focus on what is before us, stay in the present. Seneca used to say, "Stay in reality." 6th Stoic lesson: mental resilience. Excellence diminishes without an adversary, said Seneca. Just as fire tests gold, adversity tests strong men. We like to live comfortably, minimize inconveniences, avoid doing what we don't like, find what we like where we like it, and never leave that behind. But Seneca said that this is a deadly trap. A person who is never challenged and always gets what they want leads a tragic life. Take a moment to think about your life. What kind of difficulty do you impose on yourself daily? Imagine you are a boxer, and on your first day in the ring, you take a punch to the chin. It hurts a lot, but in your 10th year as a boxer, you won't be stopped by a single punch. You'll be able to endure 12 rounds of getting hit, and come back the next day to train again. It's not that the punch has lost its force. Your opponents will be even stronger. The change happened inside your brain. You toughened your mind. Over time, your tolerance for physical and mental suffering will increase because your mind will learn that you can take much more than a punch. And if you keep pushing through any difficulty, you will reap rewards. That's why Seneca said, "You've gone through life without an opponent. No one can know what you're capable of, not even yourself." He repeatedly spoke about the importance of adversity, not only in accepting the challenges life presents to us, but actively seeking out difficulties to become stronger, better, and more prepared. He said that every day we should challenge ourselves, make decisions that push us, rather than settling. When we face something difficult, we should be grateful for the opportunity to develop our potential. 7th Stoic lesson: connect with those who will help you evolve. Associate with those who will make you a better person and welcome those whom you can improve, said Seneca. Seneca emphasized the importance of choosing our companions carefully because the people around us influence our character. Jim Rohn's most repeated phrase is that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. James. Her advises young writers and entrepreneurs to find in their circle a group of peers who encourage them to improve. But Wet's maxim is even better. Tell me with whom you associate, and I will tell you who you are. Seneca said that if there is something we must be especially careful about, it is who we surround ourselves with. We never return home with the same moral character we had when we left. He said that there is no person who does not leave their mark on us or unconsciously stain us. We must consider who we allow into our lives. We cannot afford to be afraid to cut ties with old environments or relationships when it is clear that they no longer serve us. We cannot be afraid to approach new people or try to enter new and better social circles. There is much at stake, as Seneca said. Just as some diseases spread from those we touch, the mind becomes infected with the ills of those who are closest to us. 8th Stoic lesson: life is finite. This is our mistake, as Seneca would say, to think that what awaits us is death. Most of death has already passed. All the time that has passed belongs to death. As in many philosophers, death was a common theme in Seneca's writings. Let us prepare our minds as if we were approaching the end of life, he would say. Do not delay anything, Let us take stock of the chapters of life every day. For the one who puts the finishing touches on their life every day, there is never a lack of time. However, Seneca's greatest contribution to the theme of life's final act is that, in reality, it was not a final act. Death has realized, Seneca said, that it is not something that awaits us in an uncertain future. It has realized that we die every day. The time you spent watching this video, you have already died just a few minutes. No day, no minute, no second that has passed can be relived. It's not that we have little time to live, Seneca said, but that we waste a lot of it. Therefore, we should only do one thing: live immediately. So, if there's one thing you take away from Seneca's writings, from his wisdom, from his philosophy and his advice, it's to go out and live now while you can. Luck is fickle, do not wait. Seize it now, live while you can. Part 3. Marcus Aurelius. There was no one like Marcus Aurelius, the last of the 5 great emperors of Rome. Marcus Aurelius was a student of Stoicism, an ancient school of philosophy founded in Athens in the early 3rd century BC, based on the belief that we do not control the world around us. We only control how we react to it. Marcus was the leader of a world that faced a pandemic lasting 15 years, civil unrest, wars on its borders, cultural decay, income inequality, and much more. Therefore, it's easy to understand why he was drawn to this philosophy. He likened himself to someone seeking relief for a rash or a burn, and Stoicism was his soothing balm, a warm lotion. That's why Marcus Aurelius tried to offer the world his only known work, Meditations, a completely unique and incomparable document in history, to convey this balm, this guide, this medicine to future generations. As the historian Brand would point out, few now are interested in the maneuvers and countermaneuvers of Roman commanders. What the centuries have preserved is the notebook of thoughts of a man whose real life was largely unknown. He wrote in the dim light of midnight, not the events of the day or the plans for the next day, but something much more enduring, the ideals and aspirations by which an extraordinary spirit lived. And that's what Stoicism was designed for, to be a medicine for the soul, relieving us of the vulnerabilities of life and equipping us with what we need to thrive. 9th Stoic lesson: wake up to your life. At dawn, when it was hard to get out of bed, Marcus Aurelius would say to himself, I have to work as a human being. What do I have to complain about if I'm going to do what I was born to do, what I was brought into this world to do? Or was I created to nestle under the covers and stay warm? One of the most interesting moments in the Meditations is this discussion that Marcus Aurelius had with himself at the beginning of Book 5. Clearly, it's a discussion he had with himself, a discussion he had many times on many mornings, like many of us. He knew he had to get out of bed, but he desperately wished to stay under the warm sheets. It's easy to understand, but it's also impressive. In fact, Marcus didn't need to get out of bed. Being an emperor meant he didn't need to do anything. He could have slept every day without immediate consequences. No one would cut his salary. No one would ask why he was late. However, Marcus insisted on getting up early and starting work. Why? As Dante wrote in his epic poem, under the covers, there is no path to fame. Nothing can be achieved while huddled under the sheets. Marcus knew that winning the morning was essential to winning the day and being successful in life. He knew that being the most powerful man in the world didn't exempt him from living in accordance with nature. He knew that his status meant nothing, and that his obligations to himself required him to wake up. He knew that sleeping in only meant that he would have to recover, and that he had lost control and was now reacting. It's as simple as that. If you want to be productive, accomplish more, and achieve greatness, you need to wake up early. 10th Stoic lesson: the obstacle is the way. Our actions may be impeded, wrote Marcus Aurelius, but there can be no impeding our intentions or dispositions, because we can accommodate ourselves. The mind adapts and converts to its own purposes. The obstacle is our action. Impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. One way to approach life is to steer clear of difficulties. You can shut your ears and eyes to what is unpleasant, choosing the easy path, avoiding hardships whenever possible. The other way is the Stoic way. We can choose, we can train ourselves, we can see difficulties as an opportunity, as grist for the mill, as a chance to learn about resilience, patience, recovery, and struggle. We can see them as an opportunity to demonstrate our worth, as a means of learning about people, situations, actions, or things. And Marcus Aurelius believed in this latter approach. He wrote about how fire turns everything, thrown into it into flame. He said it's better to consider obstacles as fuel. For the Stoics, it's not about accepting or resigning to difficulties. It's primarily about accepting them, deciding to make use of them, seeing in them an opportunity rather than an obstacle. In this way, we can turn what happens to us into fuel. Everything that happens to us can make us better and brighter. We can turn the obstacle into the way. 11th, Stoic lesson, the Stoic virtues. If at any time in your life, wrote Marcus Aurelius, you find something better than justice, honesty, self-control, and courage, embrace it unreservedly. It must be something extraordinary. While Marcus Aurelius was writing the Meditations, Rome was invaded, triggering a war that lasted for 5 years. The Tiber River experienced one of the most severe floods in history, destroying homes and livestock, leading to famine in Rome. After winning the war, returning soldiers brought with them a deadly disease known as the Antonine Plague. Weakened by hunger and the plague, numerous hostile tribes from the north took the opportunity to unite and attack the Romans. Throughout the rest of his reign, he simultaneously faced the woes of the plague and war. However, Marcus Aurelius doesn't mention any of these terrible events in his journal. Instead, he mentions that there is no challenge or problem so great that it prevents him from responding with the 4 Stoic virtues: courage, temperance, justice, and wisdom. That is, not to be afraid, not to yield to our lower instincts, not to put oneself above others, not to get lost in the details, but to see the big picture. He said that everything he faced was an opportunity to respond with these 4 virtues, which made even the most complex situations simple and clear. The only thing that mattered, he said, was to do what is right. The rest doesn't matter. Remember this principle, wrote Marcus Aurelius. When something threatens to cause you pain, the thing itself is not a misfortune. To endure and prevail is a great fortune. The things we didn't want to happen haven't happened to everyone, including Marcus Aurelius. That a business fails, the loss of a loved one, someone we care about leaving us. Our instinct leads us to label these events as unfortunate, because they are not what we wanted for ourselves. But does that make sense? It is fortunate when we get what we want, and unfortunate when, for any reason, we don't, isn't it? Marcus Aurelius proposes a different way of looking at things. Instead of telling ourselves that we are unfortunate because our expectations have been frustrated, he says we should do the opposite. It is fortunate that this has happened, and I have emerged unharmed, not destroyed by the present, nor fearful of the future. It could have happened to anyone, but not everyone would have come out unscathed. For a Stoic, we only suffer harm when our character is affected. We are harmed when we abandon what we believe in or when we set aside our own standards. It may not be desirable to lose money, have a friend fail at something, or be criticized, but how does that make us unfortunate? Our capacity to respond has not been taken away. Our character remains intact. There is no rule that says you have to go crazy over it, be shattered by it, or be anxious about the future. You still maintain control. You are still yourself, and that is very fortunate. 12th Stoic lesson: have awareness of death. As Marcus Aurelius said, you could lose your life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think. Pierre Hadot called the meditations a collection of spiritual exercises, and there is no exercise that Marcus does more than meditate on his mortality. Perhaps it was his own health problems that made him so aware of death. Perhaps it was the loss of his father at a young age. Perhaps it was the loss of 8 children. Perhaps it was the Antonine Plague, which killed between 10 and 18 million people. Perhaps it was the awareness and power of memento mori, the ancient practice of reflecting on mortality, dating back to Socrates, who said that the true practice of philosophy consists of nothing else but dying and being dead. Most people label memento mori, which Marcus Aurelius practiced, as morbid or gloomy. Most people want to avoid thinking about death. It's unpleasant, frightening, and sad. Why would anyone want to think about something they don't want to happen? It may all seem senseless. It's not about being anxious about the few days you have left. The purpose is the opposite. It is to free, inspire, and it is the key to happiness that opens the door to empowerment. Gratitude, charity is a full-time attitude every moment of every day. Memento mori is the jolt that keeps us in the present moment. Marcus Aurelius liked to ask, who on earth would think about their mortality, that they have only a few minutes left on earth, and would say they should spend more time discontent, scared, or depressed? Our mortality is not depressing. It's energizing. It turns down the volume on the meaningless, foolish, and futile questions in which we waste so much energy, because in the light of death, few things are worth getting angry, stressed, or worried about. So keep reminding yourself, as Marcus did, that you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think. And if you like this content, don't forget to share it with someone who might need it. Help us spread this amazing knowledge. Now, if you want to understand a bit more about Stoicism, just click on one of the videos that's appearing on your screen. Thank you for watching.